Hey everyone, it's Michael, and in this one take video, I'm going to talk to you about money habits and routines and how they will save you. Why am I talking about it? Because I know that as soon as I break these laws or concepts in this video, I run out of money by the end of the month. And I'm like, oh shit, I need to start paying more attention to what I'm spending on. Or I see my friends all the time who make more than enough where they don't have to live paycheck to paycheck, but they do because they don't know how to administer their money. So I'm going to give you two different lessons today on habits and routines and why it's important to have them around money. So number one, it's going to be that you're able to free up RAM space in your head. And number two, it's that it's able to auto-regulate itself with routines when it comes to, for example, your spending. So number one, once you have routines and habits, you won't have to micromanage it. It's like if you're on a diet and there's person number one who's obsessing over their calories all day. Everything they put into their body, they're weighing. They're like, okay, I got to think about it all day. They're going to break by the end of the week. Then there's person number two who's like, okay, I have my set meals. I know what their calories are. I got this. I got the routine. I'll think about it in 2 weeks. And then in 2 weeks, you're like, damn, I lost quite a bit of weight. Or I didn't. Let me autocorrect. And 2 weeks later, you're like, oh, I did lose a lot of weight. So there's number one who's going to fail and who honestly is just sad. And then number two, who with the routines and the habits, he might or might not succeed depending on if it's the right routine or habits, but at least he won't be obsessing over it all day. Like for example, I'm sure some people love it as a hobby, like Graham Stephan on YouTube. I'm sure from what he seems like that he loves to look at his budgeting, his scheduling, like how can I reduce $1 in this amount here? How can I get rid of $10 here? How can I do that? I hate doing that because for me, it's like counting calories. It's like, it just gets very monotonous and it makes me focus in too much on it and it just makes me think about it all day. So by having routines and habits, you won't have to think about it. It'll make you happier. You should try it out. Number two, if you have routines and habits, they will auto-regulate itself. So for me, I catch myself before I spend too much money on certain objects if it's outside of my routine. So for example, during the week, if I'm like, hey, Monday to Friday, I am only going to cook at home and I'm only going to eat stuff that I buy from the grocery store, then I know as soon as a friend calls me up and says, hey, we should have dinner, it's like, whoa, that's outside of my routine. I kind of auto-regulate, okay, if I have dinner, it's going to be on a Wednesday or whatever day it is, and it's probably going to be 20 or 40 bucks. Okay, cool. Yeah, I can do that. So you catch yourself real quick. But you can still go. But what happens is if your friend calls you and you're like, oh, this is the third time that I'm going out now. Now your routine is that you're going out and your habit is that you're going out 3 times a week. So it's detrimental. Then you start spending more money. So you need to make sure that as soon as you have a routine, if there's any spike in something that you're doing different, it's like, oh, gotcha. Okay, what is that? I usually don't spend money on that. And you auto-regulate it yourself. It happens to me, for example, I'm not a compulsive buyer. So on Amazon.com, I don't buy that much stuff. So as soon as I go onto Amazon.com for something, I'm like, oh, okay, this is not routine for me. I usually am not in Amazon.com. Let me see how this fits into my budget. So by only looking at the actions that are outside of my routine, for example, I feel like I'm saying for example a lot in this video, but if I'm only looking at the actions that are outside of my routine, maybe I'm only looking at 5 actions per week, or maybe 6. But if I don't have a routine and I'm sporadically just spending stuff on different things because it feels good or because whatever, maybe sometimes it happens, for example, when I'm moving. When you're moving, you have a lot of hidden costs that you're like, oh, I didn't know I spent money on that and that and that because you didn't expect this and it's not routine. So by the end of the month, you're like, whoa, I spent a lot more money than I thought because I wasn't tracking because there was no routine. So by doing this, you're going to help out your mental headspace. You're going to make sure that you are able to auto-regulate. As soon as you see something that's out of character, it's like, oh, what is that? I usually don't spend money on that. Maybe I can. Maybe I have a buffer. Maybe I can permit myself to buy it. But let me see how it falls into your overall budget. So you're making maybe 5 to 6 decisions a week or 20 a month instead of 20 a day, where you're like, hey, I'm always buying different stuff, so I always have to plug it into my calculator and see if I can afford it. Or you don't track anything and you don't have routines or habits, and by the end of the week or by the end of the month, you're broke, and you're like, man, this sucks. Even if you are making enough money, because I truly believe there's a lot of people that think that they're not making enough money and that they're living paycheck to paycheck, when in reality, they're just not disciplined. There's a couple of things that you could have cut back on that if you just had routine and you didn't spend on these different things or you got secondhand, you to be able to save some money. We all know that lesson. Well, I know it's a principle where as soon as you make more money, it's like your lifestyle increases with it. So we always think, oh, if I only had 20,000, I think I heard Tony Robbins talk about this. If I only had $20,000 more, I would be so much happier. Because you think you're going to be spending the same amount of money because that's your routine. Then you make 20,000 more, and your routine goes along with it, and so it's just never enough. Hope this helped. Subscribe for more videos. I talk about money. I talk about Spanish. I talk about self-improvement. I talk about how to be the best version of yourself. And I will see you in the next video.